Fernando reporting for COMA Music Magazine, sitting here with Sean and Alex from Ritual Aesthetic. Here we're going to do a little interview here today. How are you guys doing?
Excellent, man.
All right. I want to just dive right into this and talk about the new album that you guys are working on and planning on releasing soon.
Yes, it is entitled Wound Garden, and it will be out in late July. Okay. And we're doing a self-release with this. A little bit different than the path we went with Decollect. We did that with a label with Juggernaut UK, which is now defunct, and that was kind of a negative experience, and just we wanted to do something just independent. I really love the whole idea of, kind of DIY attitude, and I think that in today's day, with the power of social media and things like that, it's really not that hard to, get a good product across to a lot of people. And I think really for us, the reason why we're choosing to go kind of the DIY route is just because we mostly just want to keep things fun, and we're certainly not opposed to another label in the future, but I know that for some bands it's kind of difficult to go forward without, thinking that way. But, as far as I'm concerned, I think that, just make great music first and, get a really good solid group together and kind of let those things happen organically instead of, just feeling sad or like, you're left out of not being on a label, because there's so much you can do without the support. Surely it's a lot more difficult, but I don't see any reason why, that should stop any bands from doing something like that.
I totally agree with that. I mean, like you said, with the power of social media, I mean, the sky's the limit. You don't have to rely on a record label to promote you. You can do all that yourself these days, and it's what a lot of people are doing these days. That was a pretty cool label from what I saw. All the great bands on there. And Mr. Kitty was on there. Who else was on there? That label. Voice Coil?
Man, there was Voice Coil, who is also from Denver, was on Juggernaut for a while. I'm not sure. I think they went independent as well. I'm not sure. I don't really know any of that.
Yeah, I'm not quite. Yeah, I didn't touch base last time on that one. So yeah, Decollect was such a great album. How is the new one different from Decollect?
Well, the new one is different from Decollect in that it is a lot heavier. I wouldn't say it really transcends into metal as much as it has a lot of metal influence rooted into it, because all of us in Ritual Aesthetic all come from a background in metal. Alex comes from a background in death metal, and I spent about 7 years playing in black metal bands. Mm-hmm. And the same for our drummer. He's a really long time metal background. He plays for countless amounts of metal bands. He's a studio drummer. So
cool.
So he is the most experienced of all of us with that, and so we all share a mutual love for this kind of music. I don't like to really classify it. I don't like to just say industrial, because that it shoves it into one place. But it's all relative.
It's kind of tongue in cheek, anyway.
Yeah.
But like what you just sent me, what I heard, it definitely sounds a lot harder, a lot heavier, metal influence, but it still has your kind of style to it, it still has a Ritual Aesthetic style to it, which is great. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that new album that's coming out. Now I want to talk about Drowning Girls.
Ah, yes.
You were recently in Florida.
Yes, in Sarasota, Florida.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that. What exactly is Drowning Girls?
So the Drowning Girls is a theater performance. It's a 70-minute play. Right now it's currently showing at the Urbanite Theater. But the Drowning Girls, it runs in various other theaters in different cities. But the one at the Urbanite Theater in Florida, that's the only spot where our original score is and where their original take is. The Urbanite is a really cool theater because they do traditional or pre-existing shows, but they put their own take on it. They kind of got like a cool contemporary edge. And so how we got involved with that was about almost a year ago. We had given them a piece of unreleased music for one of their fundraising commercials, and it went excellent. It sounded great. It fit the vibe. And then most recently, they just approached us with asking, "Hey, how about doing an original score for this show?" Because a lot of plays, a lot of the ones that you can even see at the Denver Performing Center use rehashed material, or sometimes just copyrighted, music from other bands and stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that this kind of music that we're discussing really borderlines many times on sounding like motion picture music. You know, I think that you could find there's so many dark electronic bands who do things like video game scores and stuff now today that it just seemed really fitting, and it was a really cool experience to do a score like that because the song structure is a lot different. You don't have to worry about vocals or anything like that. You don't have to kind of condense it into a traditional song. So it was a really good, it was a really interesting, I should say, experience going through writing it because a lot of times we were bouncing ideas off of each other of like, starting to form a cool song, but then kind of being locked in like, well, wait a minute, we don't need to worry about arranging it this way because it can just kind of drift and stuff. And it was a neat experience writing off of a script because, usually when you get together in a band scenario, everybody's got some ideas or whatever, but we were just going off of, a script with dialogue and references to, which pages that we were at. And that's pretty much it.
Wow.
And
a
lot of times with theater screenplays, with scripts, there's not a screenplay which describes what's happening. You're just seeing character dialogue. So we kind of had to read that and assess, like, well, what does this sound like? What does this look like? And again, like I said, it turned out to be really easy because I think that this particular genre, if you strip the vocals out of a lot of bands that we probably both like, it could easily be dropped into a movie. So it's just, I think it was just the right pair up for our genre to turn something like that out.
So as far as the theater aspect of it, you hear some, a lot of electronic music and, dark music and stuff like that in motion pictures and movies, but an actual theater performance, that's a little different. So, is that something that was a little, say, different to work with other than like just doing a movie score or something? You're having your mind that you're going to have live actors, playing along and...
Yeah, definitely. In ways, it was a little more scary because I've never done any film work, but I know that when something like that happens, you already have the scene sitting there, with no audio. So I think my biggest fear with doing that, and kind of like what you're asking me about if it was different, is just thinking like, well, the actors have to perform to this for a month straight. So what if they don't like it? You know what I mean?
If they get tired of it or something,
yeah,
they're probably thinking, "Whoa, this is different." Hey, cool. It's not like "Hello, Dolly" or some old show tune type stuff. This is new, fresh music, which is, I'm sure they probably had some fun with it.
Oh no, absolutely. The response was just overwhelmingly warm, and that's something that we would definitely like to do again. We would also like to definitely do video games or films if that opportunity presents itself, because
that's cool.
I really believe firmly in taking what you're good at and branching it out into as many projects or materializing into as many things as possible instead of just sticking to, just being in a band, because I think that gets boring.
That's being open-minded as well. You're not just closing off all your avenues because you want to be like, a band and you want to play big shows. You have focus, for, performances, movies, video, like you just said, so that's cool, Also, you write most of the music yourself, right? Like
initially, yeah. Decollect was a venture that I just did completely myself.
Yeah.
And half of doing a project that way is really awesome, and the other half is really terrible.
So I bet if okay, you're writing this and you're like, okay, this sounds great. How am I going to do this live, right?
Right.
Have you ever thought, has that ever crossed your mind, like, okay, this album is badass, and how does that transcend into the live aspect of it?
Definitely. Well, usually, even when I was doing Decollect, when I wasn't working with a live band, I was considering it then, like, okay, well, how is this going to translate live? And there's some songs that I think in any genre of music that just translate automatically much more strongly in a live scenario, and there's also songs, again, I think in every genre that are not, that they might sound awesome on record, but they just, that energy or power just isn't there. But this time around, I just use the term live band, but that's not how it is now. I still write the core principle of all the songs, but our entire, the whole group as a band now is very much collaborative. Alex, I didn't touch any of the guitar stuff. He writes all of his own guitar parts. I put a very loose base of simple drums to things just for placeholder, and then our drummer, you know, he takes that from there and then kind of breathes life into it, and then you know, there's not really this rule of, you know, everything I say goes at all. You know what I mean?
Cool.
It's a very collaborative project. So a better way to refer to Ritual Aesthetic, I would say, is something that started off as a solo project, but then turned into a band. Because, and like I was saying about how it's doing something by yourself is half good and half awesome. The good side is that, you know, you don't have, you know, you don't have to take votes on what goes. And then, you know, the downside is, you know, you're not performing live in some cases, and there's nobody around to kind of, you know, share that excitement with. And so, but this time around, you know, and having it be a band scenario, you know, there's all of us to share the excitement and to bounce ideas off of and kind of grow organically together, which is...
I've noticed from my own experiences, I'd write something and then, you know, my bandmate would get his beats on there and his samples and, you know, just like you said, breathe life into it. You know, it sounds good, you know, it looks good, sounds good, and all of a sudden it just animates and becomes alive, you know, because there's so much collaboration from the other side that you probably wouldn't have even expected. Is, oh, you know, this is totally surprising, you know, when, you know, Alex takes his guitar and just, you know, adds another layer over the, you know, and then you got your drums, and yeah, I mean, I could totally, you know, relate with that, which is really cool. So visual arts, you're a bit of a visual artist yourself, I've noticed.
Yeah, I laugh because it's just I haven't dabbled with that for so long. Yeah, I initially before I created Decollect, and I was really infatuated with photography. That was still is a love of mine, and I appreciate all kinds of visual art.
Awesome.
It's something. The only reason why I'm not creating as much visual art anymore is just because I'm very taken by music. You know, so I think the last art piece that I made was the cover for a grindcore band called Primitive Man. They're also based out of Denver.
Oh, really?
I shot the cover of their album "Home Is Where the Hatred Is," and it's a killer album if you like that kind of stuff.
I'll have to check that out. Yeah, that's cool. So you had fun doing that?
Yeah. The only reason, you know, why I think it kind of becomes a toss-up if you're trying to incorporate your own visual arts with your band is because then, you know, the self criteria just gets out of hand. You know, if you're writing your own songs and then shooting your own album cover,
there's only so many hours in the day.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
That's true. So as far as Denver being out here, I noticed we have a really thriving music scene out here in Denver, and it's been for a while. How do you feel, you know, about the scene out here being supportive towards bands like yours, as opposed to like maybe the scene in another city, like, you know, say Los Angeles or somewhere in New York, or, you know, like how would Denver be a little different towards like the support of, you know, underground bands?
Well, I mean, thus far, as far as, you know, this genre and, you know, the kind of the community that seems to exist around it, it seems fantastic. It seems like, you know, Denver is obviously, you know, smaller than a place like Los Angeles, but, you know, the community of people who all like the same things, as you can see, you know, like seem to all band together online. And I think,
definitely.
I think what is there now? There's like three, you know, industrial nights a week or something like that. And then
all the time.
There's the monthly special events. I think that Denver could certainly afford to change up some of the music bills that get placed on both when touring acts come into town and just kind of like, you know, run-of-the-mill local shows. I think that could afford a little bit more diversity. But again, I'm really only speaking about this genre because, like I was saying earlier, we come from the metal community first, you know, and that's another thing that Denver has going for it. It has an extremely thriving metal community. I think Denver's the only place where there's two metal-themed bars in a 2-mile radius from each other.
Exactly.
So.
I know, like Black Sky Brewery, that place is pretty cool.
Yeah, something else I would definitely like to add about the Denver community, because you would kind of brought up Los Angeles, is that the people, what I love so much about Denver is that the people in Denver are very much more sincere and, you know, seem to take a deeper appreciation to stuff, not only with local bands, but
accepting.
Absolutely. And that excitement kind of seems to be a lot more alive in Denver. You know, I think when I saw you last at the Thrill Kill Cult show.
Oh yeah,
and people just thought that just was so special.
Oh,
you know,
I was playing guitar for Wire Trap. We opened up for it was us, and then Psychedelic, and then Thrill Kill Cult. But that was a great night. That was a lot of fun. It was good to see you that night too.
Yeah,
it was cool.
It was cold.
It was a cold night for sure.
Good stuff.
Oh, it was fun. So as far as the live performance, how's this going to go down? You're going to be the front man, obviously.
Yeah.
Do you prefer to play any instruments on stage, or obviously I haven't seen you play live, so you know.
Well, no, our structure is pretty conventional. You could easily compare it, to the way Nine Inch Nails would go about their shows. You know, we have 2 guitar players, a bassist, a drummer, and then myself on vocals, and then I also play keyboards a little bit when I can. Wow. It's a little different live, but
that's a full band right there.
Yeah,
as
and
far as I'm concerned,
we wanted to have that kind of conventional band structure.
Yeah,
because even with playing strictly electronic songs that don't really call for it, it just always sounds thicker and heavier live. And again, that's where you can kind of claw at rock or metal
live
influences
drums and more guitars.
Exactly. And our drummer, he uses an acoustic kit because obviously electronic drums is like something we thought of, but I don't think anything really brings that brutality like a loud
beefy
kit.
sound.
Yeah, definitely.
That's true. And we already covered your influences. As far as like metal, like do you have any favorite bands that kind of really influenced you, like growing up and becoming the artist that you are these days? Like,
oh man, that's tough to say. Just because
maybe a couple.
We both listen to so much music. During the creation of this process, I can say that we were really heavily influenced by a Los Angeles-based duo called Youth Code.
Oh, I love Youth Code. They're
yeah,
awesome.
We just were really drawn to like the raw power that band has. It's
they're great live too.
Yeah, and their music has like that real. It's like ugly but great. And then, geez, what else? I mean, we were definitely a little bit there, taking a lot of notes from the Los Angeles-based band Three Teeth.
Oh, okay, yeah, they're pretty big time these days.
Yeah, and again, just because they've got that raw, energetic force behind them. But we're listening to music constantly. I mean, it's never really something where we're like influenced by a band and then we're like, let's write music like this. It's just kind of what I think when you can tell that you're being influenced by something is when that's the first thing you're putting on, when you're done jamming or in between doing stuff, if you're just sitting around listening to it.
Yeah.
But it's we'd be sitting here all day if I were to try and think of all of the.
Oh, I bet. Okay, I'm just going to follow this up with the last. I had a last question here. So as far as obviously you have the new album coming out. And what was the name of that new album again?
It is called Wound Garden.
Wound Garden. As far as Ritual Aesthetic, what are your plans for the future? Like what does the future hold in store for Ritual Aesthetic?
Well, we're going to release Wound Garden in July, and we have these summer shows lined up. And then we're working on right now organizing a fall tour, to kind of break out of Colorado and take our music to more people. We are playing overseas in August 2017, but that is a long time away, so we're trying to fill the gap with that.
Cool. Overseas where?
England.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, that's going to be cool.
We're also going to be releasing music not long after we put out Wound Garden because there were things that didn't make the cut, that didn't kind of fit in correctly, and again, when you're not bound by a label telling you when and how and why to release music, why not keep going?
Yeah, that's really interesting. I can't wait to hear the direction that's going. And last but not least, is there any links that you would like people to check out? I know you're all over YouTube.
Just all of the basic websites, SoundCloud, Facebook, Instagram, all those places, just all under Ritual Aesthetic. Yep, ritualaesthetic.bandcamp.com.
Okay.
That's where you can find Decollect. That's where you'll find Wound Garden, and then there's a link there to our merch store if you want any of that crap.
On Bandcamp?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. All right. Well, thank you very much for your time.
Hey, thank you.
Sean and Alex, reporting for COMA Music Magazine with Ritual Aesthetic. Thank you very much.